And once again, I want to say greetings to each and every one of you, Aquaba, and welcome to another round of the Conscious Roster Report here on LIB Radio, LIB TV here on livinginblack.com. My name is Kedio Whiteow, aka the Conscious Roster, and weekday mornings you and I get together live. We come at you from 9 a.m. Pacific Time, that's 12 noon Eastern Time, 5 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. East Africa Time, 7 p.m. I should say, East Africa Time. We get together with you, and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Wednesday. It is the 9th of April, 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the 7th millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place on LIB Radio, LIB TV here on livinginblack.com. Here's what we have up for today's broadcast. I hope you find this to be informative, exciting. Today, the program is Nutritional Chewicide. Chewicide, the book. Today on LIB Radio, imagine, if you will, a world where the pursuit of culinary perfection has reached such heights that the very act of eating has become a high-stakes game of Russian roulette. In this world, the phrase to die for takes on a literal and terrifying real meaning. This concept of chewicide is not just a fleeting moment of overindulgence. Chewicide has become a lifestyle, a philosophy, and perhaps even a cult. The cult of Chewicide. So that is our broadcast for today. I've been wanting to write this book. And yes, I am still planning on finishing up the book. A Year Against Cancer is due out about a little over a week from today. Still writing very feverishly at it, but I've also added this book, Chewicide, to it because of relationship that I have with a couple of clinical nutrition clients, helping them to reach their next level of nutritional lifestyle awareness and development. So that's why we are taking this dual pathway. And chewicide is such a very, very important theme. Many of you have seen the documentary film that I produced in 2014 called Chewicide the Movie. Well, now we are up to Chewicide the Book. And I hope and I anticipate this will be wonderfully well received by our global listening audience. Let's go into this subject of chewicide. And I began with the first chapter of the book entitled Introduction. I began the chapters of my books with quotes, relevant quotes to the topic at hand. This time I'm sharing a quote from Carl Honore, Carl Honore, Honora. In his book is entitled In Praise of Slow. And what Carl Honore writes, and I quote, "In our fast-forward culture, we have lost the art of eating well. Food is often little more than fuel to pour down the hatch while doing other stuff. All of this speed takes a toll. Obesity, eating disorders, and poor nutrition are rife." That from Carl Honore, In Praise of Slow. Let's go into this dialogue. I began this chapter, introduction chapter, with this subchapter entitled Chewicide, Nutritional Suicide, which is flip, a reverse of the title of today's broadcast, Nutritional Suicide, Chewicide the book. In the grand tapestry of human culinary indulgence, a peculiar and darkly humorous phenomenon is known as chewicide. This term, coined by the ever so creative minds at Urban Dictionary, I did not coin the term chewicide, I just began using it in this context. This term, coined by the ever so creative minds at Urban Dictionary, described the moment when you take that last tantalizing bite of something so irresistibly delicious that you realize swallowing it might be just your final act. It's a testament to the power of gastronomic temptation, where the pleasure of eating becomes so overwhelming that it borders on a deliberate act of self-sabotage. Imagine, if you will, a world where the pursuit of culinary perfection has reached such heights that the very act of eating has become a high-stakes game. In this world, the phrase "to die for," quote unquote, takes on a literal and terrifyingly real meaning. The concept of chewicide is not just a fleeting moment of overindulgence. It's a lifestyle, a philosophy, and perhaps even a cult. Let's imagine Bob. What's up, Bob? He's a different kind of guy with an insatiable appetite for wild challenges and fast food. One day, Bob decides to attempt the ultimate act of chewicide, consuming 20 Big Macs in 30 minutes. The challenge is not just a test of his physical limits, but a profound statement about the seductive power of junk food. As he takes that 20th bite, the sheer volume of greasy, salty, and sugary goodness hits him like a freight train. The pleasure is so intense that it momentarily eclipses the very real possibility of his stomach exploding. Bob's face contorts in a mixture of ecstasy and horror, a perfect encapsulation of the chewicide paradox. Yes, Bob, what's from our imagination. But chewicide is not unreal. It's not fantasy, and it is not limited to the realm of fast food and fantasy binge eating challenges. Chewicide can strike at any moment, in any setting, where the food is so irresistibly tasty, yet non-nourishing, that it becomes a form of self-destruction. Consider the gourmet chef, who, after a long day of cooking, the gourmet chef finds himself unable to resist the last slice of his own chocolate souffle. The souffle, a masterpiece of culinary art, is so rich and velvety that each bite feels like a sin. The chef, knowing the consequences, takes that final bite, and in that moment, he feels a strange sense of peace. The souffle, it seems, has won. The idea of chewicide is not just a comical exaggeration. It's a reflection of a common deep-seated psychological and cultural drive for gluttonous pleasure, even at the cost of our own long-term well-being. In a world where clean eating and health-conscious diets have become somewhat a norm, chewicide stands as a rebellious act, a defiant embrace of the very things that are supposed to be off limits. It's a reminder that sometimes the most delicious things in life are also the most dangerous. So the next time you find yourself staring at that last bite of something irresistibly delicious, remember the concept of chewicide. It might just be the ultimate test of your willpower, a moment where the line between pleasure and peril becomes blissfully blurred. And if you do decide to take that final bite, at least you can say you went out with a smile on your face and a full, happy belly. Full, maybe not so happy belly. And a full, maybe not so happy, not so happy belly. So let's go deeper into this topic of chewicide. I welcome you who are listening, audience, to join the conversation today. I hope you do join it. People get a little sensitive about stuff like their diet. Yes, they do. And I've got it under control. And I'm teaching other people to get it under control. Part of the reason I can say with a surety that I have it under control is because for this is probably about 22, 23 years, I've been engaging in quarterly seasonal detoxification fasts. And these resets give me a perspective on food and nutrition and diet, along with the constant, never-ending research I engage in. Gives me a perspective on it that I would will to teach to anyone and everyone who would receive it. It will be a tremendous bonus, a benefit in your life. Let's go forward. I want to share a few quotes about Americans' bad relationship with food. The first of these quotes comes from the well-known Dr. Joel Fuhrman, author of a number of books, including Eat to Live. One second here, because it's trying to show commercials while I'm monitoring. Okay. Dr. Joel Fuhrman writes, the problem with the standard American diet, a primary cause of our current obesity epidemic, is the fact that the majority of foods consumed are high in calories and low in micronutrients. A second quote here from Dr. Fuhrman. The American diet causes diseases. It is composed of 25% animal products and 62% processed foods, and only 5% of calories from fruits and vegetables. Dr. Joel Fuhrman, again, author of Eat to Live. Next quote comes to us from Carl Honore. This is the one this is the same author that I opened the chapter with. In our fast forward culture, we have lost the art of eating well. Food is often little more than fuel to pour down the hatch while doing other stuff. All of this speed takes a toll. Obesity, eating disorders, and poor nutrition are rife. From Carl Honore. Heather Morgan wrote, and I quote, every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. That's straight and to the point. Every time you eat or drink, you're either feeding disease or fighting it. I choose to fight disease. Every time I eat, every time I drink. Here I have my hibiscus juice here. With lime and ginger. And I have my green tea. The green tea has cinnamon, cayenne, turmeric, ginger, peppermint essential oil, and coconut oil. Heather Morgan was right. Every time you eat or drink, you are either feeding disease or fighting it. Another quote here with this collection. I just did a quick AI search, and this is what it came up with. Another one from Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Excess dietary salt is most notorious for increasing blood pressure. Americans have a 90% lifetime probability of developing high blood pressure. So even if your blood pressure is normal now, if you continue to eat the typical American diet, you will be at risk. Joel Fuhrman. I write, the poor health outcomes associated with the standard American diet are highlighted in various studies. For instance, a review by the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee 2010 reported that poor diets and sedentary lifestyles of the American public have led to high rates of obesity, overweight, and diet-related chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, hypertension, dyslipidemia, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and certain types of cancer. Another study by Caspi et al., 2012, found that individuals living in, quote, food deserts, unquote, had a higher risk for obesity and type 2 diabetes compared to those living in areas with better access to affordable fresh produce and higher quality food. In a review by the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee 2010, it was noted that the average American diet consists of excess sodium, saturated fat, refined grains, and calories from solid fats and added sugars. A study by Stowers et al., 2020, found that individuals, this is same point but different study. A study by Stowers et al., 2020, found that individuals living in food deserts had lower intakes of fruits and vegetables and higher intakes of sugar-sweetened beverages compared to those living in areas with better access to full-service supermarkets. These findings indicate that the standard American diet, characterized by a high intake of prepackaged foods, refined grains, red meat, processed meat, higher sugar drinks, candy, sweets, fried foods, and conveniently raised animal products. And they didn't put pizza on that list. Did they say fast food characterized high intakes of fast foods? Let me put that in here. Fast foods, prepackaged foods, refined grains, red meat, processed meat, high sugar drinks, candy, sweets, fried foods, and conventionally raised animal products is associated with a range of poor health outcomes. I would say not poor health, I would say poor, even catastrophic. Again, I'm writing the book as I'm sharing with you today what the book is about. So bear with me if you hear pauses in the middle of my conversation. That's me going back into the text and adding something that's relevant to what it is that we're talking about. We're talking today about the upcoming book, Nutritional. The book is entitled Chewicide, the book. And actually it does have a different subtitle. And here, let me just share with you what the subtitle of the book is. And it's a work in process. It's called Chewicide, Food So Tasty It's to Die For. And as you can tell, I'm having a little bit of fun with this book. The movie did have a good kind of underlying base of humor in it, and so why, if I can, why not translate that humorous angle to the book as well? The next subchapter, we're still in the introductory chapter. The next subchapter, the Western diet versus traditional African food. This story appeared just this week. We referred to this maybe 2 days ago. Today is the 9th. This story appeared on April 3rd, 2025, in the online journal Science Daily. And here's what the story had to say. The headline, Western diet causes inflammation, traditional African food protects. Study from Tanzania shows major impact of diet on the immune system. Here's a summary of that study. A switch of just 2 weeks from a traditional African diet to a Western diet causes inflammation, reduces the immune response to pathogens, and activates processes associated with lifestyle diseases. Conversely, an African diet rich in vegetables, fiber, and fermented foods has positive effects. This study highlights the significant impact of diet on the immune system and metabolism. They talk about lifestyle diseases. 77 healthy men from Tanzania, both urban and rural residents, participated in the study. Some participants who traditionally ate an African diet switched to a Western diet for 2 weeks. 2 weeks on the Western diet, while others who ate a Western diet adopted a traditional African diet. A third group consumed a fermented banana drink daily. Now that fermented banana drink, I can't remember what they call it in Uganda, but they make booze out of it. And so I don't know if this one was fermented to the point that it produced alcohol, because in Uganda that fermented banana drink is really quite a problem, caused quite a problem of alcoholism in the rural areas. The third group consumed a traditional African diet. No, the third group consumed a fermented banana drink daily. As a control, 10 participants maintained their usual diet. The researchers comprehensively analyzed the function of the immune system, blood inflammation markers, and metabolic processes at baseline after the 2-week intervention and again at 4 weeks later. Participants who switched to a Western diet exhibited an increase in inflammatory proteins in their blood, alongside activation of biological processes linked to lifestyle diseases. Their immune cells also responded less effectively to pathogens. Meanwhile, those who switched to a traditional African diet or consumed the fermented drink showed a reduction in inflammatory markers. Some of these effects persisted even 4 weeks later, indicating that short-term dietary changes can have long-lasting effects. Let me repeat that last sentence. Some of these effects persisted for 4 weeks later, indicating that short-term dietary changes can have long-lasting effects. Let me give you the citation for what I just shared. The article entitled Immune and Metabolic Effects of African Heritage Diets versus Western Diets in Men, a randomized controlled trial by Godfrey S. Timba et al. From Nature Medicine, April 3rd, 2025. And so, there we have it. There's always so much conversation about the spectrum of disorders and diseases that African Americans seem to be disproportionately plagued with. And the evidence is there to say, yeah, that's true. Well, now we're comparing blacks in America to blacks in Africa. We are essentially genetically the same people. There are some epigenetic changes that would have happened, but 400 years, 500 years in the evolutionary line is not a very long period unless there's some radical environmental stressors at play. And that's what the truth is. But in just 2 weeks, these two groups swapping diets, just 2 weeks, cause a radical shift in disease markers from the Americans who had been eating the standard American lifestyle diet all their life. They got tremendous benefits from the African diet that lasted for even 4 weeks after the study concluded. And for the Africans who had been eating that traditional African diet all their lives, just 2 weeks of eating the Western diet, eating like their cousins across the seas, they started showing these inflammatory markers, immune system malfunction, and hallmarks of metabolic syndrome diseases. I wrote about this in my 2014 book called Living Superfood Longevity. I actually have it right here. I pulled it out yesterday and was sharing it with some other people. I actually wrote about this dietary swap. This is not the Tanzania study. It was a South African study that we wrote about. And it is true. It is true. We're going to come to terms with these truths, people, and adjust our lives accordingly. I'm just looking for that study, and hopefully I'll have it here in hand. I know it's in this book. I just don't have it handy. Let me see if I can find it under South Africa. Dietary swap, African diet. If I don't have it handy, I'll make sure I do cite it in the new book, Chewicide, the movie, or Chewicide, the book, which I'm reading from today. So, insights from Africa. This is the first study to comprehensively map the health effects of a traditional African diet. Previous research has focused on other traditional diets, such as the Japanese macrobiotic, it's called, or the Mediterranean diet. Says internist Kirjan Demast from Radboudumc. I don't know what that word is, what language that is, from Radboudumc. Too many consonants in a row. Put some vowels in your words, people. However, there is just as much to learn from traditional African diets, especially now, as lifestyles in many African regions are rapidly changing and lifestyle diseases are increasing. Africa's rich diversity in traditional diets offers unique opportunities to gain valuable insights into how food influences health. That's a very, very important statement. I have a client in Kenya who I've been working with for a little bit over a year, and he graduated, became a lawyer, and with the extra income he was earning as a lawyer, he blew up his body 10 years at age, like, he was young man. He still is young man, like 37 years old. His body just blew up, gained a whole bunch of weight, diabetes, hypertension, all the Western metabolic syndrome diseases being described in this study from Africa. He had 10 years to work him in, not 2 weeks. So I've working with him, was able to get him to reverse that. And he fluctuated, went back and forth, family influence, friend influence, kept intervening. Finally, he got it on track. And now, last I heard about his diet and nutrition, he kept the weight off. He didn't finish losing the weight. He's still on that track, but he kept the weight off. the conditions, the diabetic condition or pre-diabetes, the hypertension, those conditions went away, and now he's getting fit and healthy, working out and doing gym work. I'm really, really proud of my dear brother. I'll send him a link to today's program. Make sure he gets a chance to see I was talking about him. And I'm very proud of him. Very proud. Very intelligent young man, too. Insights from Africa continuing. However, there is just as much to learn from traditional African diets, especially now as lifestyles in many African regions are rapidly changing and lifestyle diseases are increasing. Africa's rich diversity in traditional diets offers unique opportunities to gain valuable insights into how food influences health. Damast finds it remarkable how significant the effects of diet are, even after just 2 weeks. The African diet includes plenty of vegetables, fruits, beans, whole grains, and fermented foods. Our study highlights the benefits of these traditional food products for inflammation and metabolic processes in the body. At the same time, we show how harmful an unhealthy Western diet can be. It typically consists of processed and high-calorie foods, such as French fries and white bread, with excess of salt, refined sugars, and saturated fats. Inflammation is at the root of many chronic conditions, which makes this study highly relevant for Western countries as well. Now, I'm citing the same story that appeared in Science Daily, but this particular citation, number 13, I go back to, this is from the same one, same study, IBID. A 2023 report from the journal Nutrients titled Global Impacts of Western Diet and Its Effects on Metabolism and Health, a narrative review, highlights several key points about the Western diet and its effect on health. Point: the Western diet is characterized by high intakes of prepackaged foods, refined grains, red meat, processed meat, high sugar drinks, candy, sweets, fried foods, conveniently raised animal products, conventionally raised animal products, high fat dairy products, and high fructose products. Point 2. Transitioning to a Western diet can result in pro-inflammatory changes, whereas transitioning to an African heritage diet rich in fruits and vegetables, legumes, and fermented products can have opposite effects. Point 3. The Western diet negatively impacts metabolism, inflammation, antioxidant status, as well as the integrity of the gut microbiota and mitochondrial fitness. Point: it is associated with increased risks of cardiovascular health issues, mental health problems, and cancer. Point: the Western diet, is linked to the development of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic diseases, contributing to a global health risk. Point: encouraging healthier dietary patterns, such as increased intake of fruits and vegetables and reduced intake of processed and fast foods, can help mitigate these negative effects. Point: promoting physical activity, reducing sedentary behavior, and emphasizing the importance of sleep are all recommended to improve overall health. And the final point, the review suggests by enhancing psychometric evaluation questionnaires designed to assess lifestyle choices, health professionals can provide more personalized and targeted interventions. That's very important. I'm going to reread that one because that's what I do. That's the first thing I do when engaging with a clinical nutrition client. The first thing I do is a psychometric evaluation. The review suggests that by enhancing psychometric evaluation questionnaires designed to assess lifestyle choices, health professionals can provide more personalized and targeted interventions. These findings underscore the critical need for dietary changes and lifestyle modifications to address the adverse health impacts of the Western diet. But back to this topic of Chewicide. Let's enjoy this paradox. Let's enjoy this paradox. Next subchapter called Chewicide, a love letter to tasty self-destruction. Again, subchapter title, Chewicide, a love letter to tasty self-destruction. In the grand theater of human existence, few acts are as universally celebrated and simultaneously condemned as the act of eating. Enter Chewicide, a lifestyle choice so bold and audacious that it dares to ask, quote, why live long when you can live deliciously? The philosophy of Chewicide is simple. It's not about counting calories or reading nutrition labels. Chewicide is about embracing the hedonistic joy of food that's so good it literally is to die for. Think deep fried butter sticks or Twinkies, quadruple layer cheeseburgers, and desserts that are 90% sugar and 10% regret. Proponents of Chewicide argue that life is short, so why not make it shorter with a side of fries? Life is short, so why not make it shorter and supersize that side of fries? And supersize that side of fries. There you go. They scoff at kale smoothies and quinoa bowls, declaring them the culinary equivalent of a tax audit. Necessary, perhaps, but utterly joyless. Instead, they revel in the greasy, the sugary, and the absurdly indulgent, treating every meal like it's their last supper. But let's not forget the risks. Chewicide is not for the faint of heart. Literally, the lifestyle comes with a, quote, death wish, unquote, baked right in as arteries clog and waistlines expand. Yet for the true Chewicide enthusiast, these are mere speed bumps on the highway to Flavor Town. Critics, of course, will wag their kale-covered fingers, warning of the perils of this gastronomic recklessness. But Chewicide practitioners have a simple rebuttal. If loving pizza is wrong, we don't want to be right. In the end, Chewicide is less about food and more about philosophy. It's a celebration of living in the moment, savoring every bite, and choosing joy over longevity. So here's to Chewicide, a lifestyle that proves it's better to burn out than to fade away, especially if you're burning out with a creme brulee. Chewicide. I live in Las Vegas. This is the home of the world-famous Heart Attack Grill on Fremont Street, Las Vegas. The Heart Attack Grill on Fremont Street in Las Vegas is a spectacle of culinary excess and dark humor. where indulgence meets absurdity most unapologetically. This hospital-themed restaurant takes gluttony to new heights, serving up artery-clogging creations like the octuple bypass burger, which boasts 8 beef patties and nearly 20,000 calories. Yes, I said it right. I read it right. 20,000 calories in a single burger. The experience at the Heart Attack Grill begins with diners being admitted as patients, complete with hospital gowns and wristbands. The waiting staff, dressed as nurses and doctors, playfully lean into the theme, even offering public spankings to those who fail to finish their meals. And if you weigh over 350 pounds, congratulations, you dine for free. You pig out for free. Let's be clear about that. You don't dine, you pig out for free. The menu is a parade of excess, featuring items like, quote, flattener fries, unquote, cooked in pure lard and butterfat milkshakes, served with a pat of butter. Drinks come in IV bottles or IV bags or giant syringes, adding to the macabre medical humor. The restaurant even holds a Guinness World Record for the most calorific burger, the quadruple bypass burger, which clocks in at nearly 10,000 calories. While some see it as a tongue-in-cheek commentary on fast food culture, others view it as a controversial celebration of unhealthy eating. Either way, the Heart Attack Grill is a uniquely Vegas experience. Over the top, outrageous, and undeniably absurd. Why would anyone in their right mind dare to take on this challenge? Why would anybody in their right mind dare to take on this challenge? The Heart Attack Grill. I understand they have a second one now in another city, probably back east somewhere. I continue. Chewicide would be comical if it weren't so tragic. And here, let me just double check, see what time we got. Chewicide would be comical if it weren't so tragic. The paradox of chewicide. A lifestyle that dances on the razor's edge between hilarity and heartbreak. It's the ultimate tragic comedy, where the punchline is clogged arteries, and the setup is a plate of deep fried decadence. Imagine the scene. A diner gleefully devouring a burger so massive it requires structural engineering to hold it together. The fries, golden and glistening, whisper promises of blissful indulgence. The milkshake, topped with whipped cream and a cherry, is practically a dessert symphony. It's all so absurdly delicious that you can't help but laugh until you remember the cost. Not the price tag, but the toll on the body. Suddenly the humor fades, replaced by the sobering reality of what, quote, to die for, unquote, truly means. Chewicide is a satire of our own excesses, a mirror reflecting the absurdity of prioritizing taste over health. It's funny because it's ridiculous, but tragic because it is all too real. And yet we can't look away. allure of flavor is too strong, the temptation too great. It's a comedy of errors where the joke is on us and the punchline is bittersweet. Chewicide, food so tasty, it's to die for. This book invites readers to confront a not so silent epidemic plaguing our nation: the devastating consequences of poor nutrition. In a world where convenience often trumps intelligence, daily food choices have spiraled into a collective health crisis, one bite at a time. A collective health crisis, a death wish, one bite at a time. This book sheds light on the dark side of the modern diet. Bear with me. This book sheds light on the dark side of the modern diet, exposing how processed foods, sugary snacks, and fast food indulgences are not just satisfying our cravings, but slowly undermining our well-being. And I would add to that: processed foods, sugary snacks, chemicals masquerading as food, and fast food indulgence are not just satisfying our cravings, but slowly undermining our well-being. And I would say our manipulated food cravings, from skyrocketing obesity rates to the alarming rise of diet-related diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. Chewicide unveils how our relationship with food has veered dangerously off course. Through vivid storytelling, eye-opening research, and practical advice, this book will not only explain how we got here, but also empowers readers to take back control of their plates and their lives. This is more than just a book. It's a wake-up call. Chewicide challenges readers to rethink their diets and reconnect with the nourishing power of wholesome, real foods. But after all, as so often said, food is, as we've often said, food is nature's most perfect medicine. Let me reread that because I just inserted that. This is more than just a book. It's a wake-up call. Chewicide challenges readers to rethink their diets and reconnect with the nourishing power of wholesome, real foods. As we've often said, food is nature's most perfect medicine. By raising awareness and fostering change, this book aims to inspire a healthier, more conscious approach to eating, because the stakes have never been higher. Your life could depend upon it. Would you say that this introductory chapter captures the essence of Chewicide? Or maybe does it need a little bit more seasoning? A little bit more, let's say, instead of seasoning, spicing up. That concludes the introductory chapter to the new book, the upcoming book, Chewicide, the book. And again, that's not the subtitle. The subtitle of it is Food So Tasty, It's to Die For. Let's go on. I got a little more time here. And I want to use this time judiciously because this book is going to have to be pushed. I want to get it into the marketplace in a pretty good timing. The next chapter, entitled, this is chapter 2, entitled Don't Get Distracted by Health Statistics. I begin with this quote. Once again, we actually heard this in the previous chapter from Dr. Joel Fuhrman. He wrote, and I quote, excessive dietary salt is most notorious for increasing blood pressure. Americans have a 90% lifetime probability of developing high blood pressure. So even if your blood pressure is normal now, if you continue to eat the typical American diet, you will be at risk. Dr. Joel Fuhrman from the book Eat to Live. I began this analysis with the standard American diet, abbreviated as SAD. The standard American diet is indeed sad. The following bullet points will make this point, will make this relevant. The following points make this relevant to our healthy lifespan. Point number 1, obesity prevalence among adults. Approximately 42% of Americans are classified as obese, according to recent CDC surveys. The source of that from the CDC National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. Is that the NEHANS? Yeah, NEHANS is what that's called. That's abbreviation. Point 2, childhood obesity. Nearly 20% of children and adolescents aged 2 to 19 in the United States are obese, underscoring early nutrition challenges. That from the CDC growth charts and obesity data. Point 3, hypertension, high blood pressure. About 47% of U.S. adults have high blood pressure, a condition strongly linked with high sodium intake and poor dietary habits. Source, the American Heart Association and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Point 4, diabetes prevalence. Over 37 million Americans live with diabetes, and lifestyle factors tied to diet are the primary driver behind the rise of type 2 diabetes. And that's adult onset or diabetes mellitus. Next point, number 5. Elevated cholesterol. Approximately 12% of U.S. adults have high, low-density lipoprotein LDL, the bad cholesterol levels, a contributor to cardiovascular risk. One second. Okay, next point. Point number 6, average daily sodium consumption. The typical American consumes about 3,400 milligrams of sodium each day, well above the recommended maximum of 2,300 milligrams, contributing to hypertension and heart disease. Point 7, added sugars intake. Studies have found that the average American diet includes roughly 17 teaspoons of added sugars daily, increasing risk for obesity and metabolic disorders. 17 teaspoons. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Number 8, insufficient fiber consumption. Only about 5% of Americans meet the recommended daily intake of dietary fiber, which is crucial for digestive health and regulating blood sugar levels. Digestive and gut health and regulating blood sugar levels. That's sourced from the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Number 9, ultra-processed foods consumption. Over 60% of the average daily caloric intake in the U.S. comes from ultra-processed foods, which are linked to a host of adverse health outcomes. And I would add to that even many vegetarians and some vegans have become hooked on ultra processed foods as well. That's sourced from the research by Monteiro et al. On NOVA food classification, public health nutrition. Number 10, fruits and vegetables. Merely 10% of Americans eat the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, resulting in deficiencies in essential micronutrients. That's sourced from the United States Department of Agriculture, Dietary Guidelines, and the CDC. Number 11, the prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. An estimated 25% of American adults have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, a condition strongly associated with diets high in sugar and saturated fats. Source, the American Liver Foundation and the CDC. Point number 12, cardiovascular disease mortality. Mortality means death. Morbidity means illness. Mortality means death. Cardiovascular disease remains the leading cause of death in the U.S., with nearly 800,000 deaths per year, much of which is linked to poor dietary patterns. That's source, the CDC and the American Heart Association. Point 13, this keeps going on, people, colorectal cancer risk. Diets high in red and processed meats are associated with an estimated 18% increased risk of colorectal cancer. The source of that, the World Health Organization, International Agency for Research on Cancer, IARC. Point 14, metabolic syndrome prevalence. Approximately 34% of U.S. adults are diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, obesity, and insulin resistance. The source of that, the CDC, National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention. And I would add to this, in too many cases, their attendant physician fails to inform the patient of the metabolic syndrome status. That's true. I get a lot of people, I can talk with a lot of people about, and that are suffering from metabolic syndrome. It's 1 out of 3, so it's very common now. And the doctors never mention it. They never mention it. I consider that to be negligence to the point of a malpractice. In too many cases, this is what's happening. Number 15, healthcare expenditures on diet-related diseases. The annual cost of treating diet-related chronic illnesses in the United States exceeds $50 billion annually. That from the American Heart Association economic reports. Number 16, premature deaths attributed to poor diet. Globally, poor dietary habits are linked to roughly 11 million deaths each year, with U.S. data reflecting a similar pattern of premature mortality driven by diet. Point 17, dental caries prevention. High sugar consumption has led to very high rates of dental decay. Studies show that up to 92% of adults experience dental cavities at some point. That's sourced from CDC oral health data. Point 18, bone health impacts. Excessive consumption of cola and soda, ubiquitous in the standard American diet, has been linked to roughly 25% increased risk of developing osteoporosis and sustaining fractures. Let me repeat this. Bone health impacts. Excessive consumption of cola and soda, because I thought I was still reading about dental caries or cavities. Ubiquitous in the standard American diet, has been linked to roughly 25% increased risk of developing osteoporosis and sustaining fractures. The source of that from the National Institutes of Health osteoporosis studies. Point 19, the association with depression and mental health disorders. Research has found that diets high in processed and sugary foods are linked with up to a 40% increased risk of developing depression. Source: the Nutritional Psychiatry research from Harvard Health Publications. And 20, obesity-related cancer mortality. Obesity, often a consequence of poor dietary habits, contributes to approximately 20% of all cancer-related deaths in the United States. Source of that, the American Cancer Society. So these measures not only point to the numerical impact of the standard American diet on public health, but also emphasize the systemic challenges posed by diets high in processed foods, sugars, and unhealthy fats. Exploring further, one might consider strategies such as nutritional education, improved food labeling, and urban policy changes to encourage healthier eating patterns. Now, again, I'm using artificial intelligence search engines. I use 4 of them when I'm doing these research. That's why I'm able to move so fast. And then I do the best I can to make sure that what the AI is reporting is actually accurate up to the standards that we have here as part of this LIB radio family. And we have higher standards than just your quick AI research. Or AI search, I should say. So I asked for these lists, and I got 2 separate lists, one distinctively different than the other. So the second list, more measures of poor health. This one is configured a little bit differently. It's just mainly just line by line statistics, stats. 1, 16.6% of U.S. deaths in 2000 contributed to by poor diet, quality, and physical inactivity. Point 2, 32% of adults over 20 years old had an LDL cholesterol concentration considered, quote, borderline high, unquote, greater than 130 milligrams per deciliter in 2006. Point 3, 11 to 12% of caloric intake was from saturated fat. despite recommendations to reduce it to below 10% or even 7%. Point 4. 70% of calcium in American diets comes from fluid milk and milk products. Point. The majority of people in the U.S. do not attempt majority of people in the U.S. do not meet the adequate intake level for calcium from consuming foods alone. Point 6. Adolescents and adults consume only about half the recommended amount of fluid milk and milk products. And I will say this much, according to my philosophy, I got to put this in, please. According to the living superfood philosophy, milk products, after weaning, milk is no longer needed in the human diet, let alone the milk of another species. Let me put in some question marks here because there's a whole lot of that we have to unburden. Real quickly, let me just let alone. There's a lot we have to unburden there, because name one other animal other than humans, one other mammal that feeds its young the milk of another species. Name one other animal other than humans, one other mammal that continues to consume milk, dairy, long beyond the age of weaning, when our bodies naturally stop producing the lactase enzyme needed to break down the lactose molecules. And we wonder why we have so many chronic diseases related to inflammation and reproductive diseases in women and men. I often point to the consumption of dairy as one of the foundational causes of this crisis. This is very serious. Name one other animal other than humans that feeds its young the milk of another species. Can you imagine the giraffe asking the hyena to feed baby giraffes? Yeah, that baby giraffe would be hyena food. This is wild. This is crazy. How do we get here? It's cultural. Point 7, 1.9 million deaths globally in 2021 attributable to high sodium diets. Making it the most impactful dietary risk. Point number 8, 10.6% of all deaths in 2021 were associated with poor diet, with cardiovascular disease as the leading cause of death. Point 9, 30% of deaths from cardiovascular disease can be attributed to poor diet in 2021. Would be attributed to poor diet in 2021. Point number 10, high sodium intake is one of the top 15. And wait a minute. High sodium intake is one of bear with me. There we go. High sodium intake is one of the top 15 risk factors for early death in 2021. Next point, and again, I use the search engine AI search engine. This looks like Copilot, and it only found things that were several years old, but that's okay. I'll go back and correct all of this by the time the book comes out, bring these up to date. Point number 11, low fruit intake is one of the top 15 early risk factors for early death. It's one of the top 15 risk factors for early death, and I can start taking out this stuff that says in 2021 at the end of all of these. Point number 12, low whole grain intake stands as one of the top 15 risk factors for early death. Point 13, increasing vegetable consumption from 0 to 306 to 372 grams daily was associated with significant health benefits. Point number 14, 15 dietary risk factors assessed in the Global Burden of Disease study, including fruits, vegetables, legumes. It's a mess over here. Kitty's trying to edit and write and read at the same time. Let me start this again. Number 14, 15 dietary risk factors assessed in the Global Burden of Disease study, including fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, fiber, seafood, omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, calcium, sodium, red meat, processed meat, and sugar-sweetened beverages, and trans fats. So these 15 dietary factors were assessed in this particular study. Number 15, 130 discretionary calories for a person consuming 1,600 calories per day. I guess 130 of those were discretionary, meaning you have a choice, and I don't know if that's even relevant for our study. Number 16, 265 discretionary calories for consumption. Again, that may be irrelevant. And the list looks like the AI search went out looking for 20. I asked for 20, and it looks like it's getting at the end of 20. It's finding just little trivial stuff. So little trivial stuff gets eliminated when I have time to set up the program. I normally do this one. I was working up till 1 a.m. last night putting this together, so you can see this is getting to the point where I'm getting ready to say, let's wrap this up. I got to go to bed. But almost finished. 2/3 of U.S. adults are overweight or obese. That's a relevant statistics. That's point 17. Point 18, heart disease, cancer, and stroke provide the top 3 leading causes of death in the United States. Number 19, diabetes is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. And I think it might be more than the 6th leading cause of death. I think it's like after the pandemic, diabetes would come up next, 5th or 6th, somewhere around there. And even then, the pandemic had some 29 comorbidities, which are included on this list, otherwise including diabetes as a comorbidity. So we understand that those numbers were somewhat impacted by the background of chronic disease in the United States. Number 20, 15 years of stable saturated fat intake, despite long-standing recommendations to reduce it. It looks like most people are average. People are averaging some 15 years of stable, unchanged saturated fat intake despite long-standing recommendations to reduce it. So that takes us to that section of this chapter. I'm going to do one more section and we will have finished 2 chapters of the book. And this next one section is called Dysregulation of Metabolism and Health. Real quickly, I'm going to go through this from an article entitled Global Impacts of Western Diet and Its Effects on Metabolism and Health, a narrative review by Vincent Javier Clement Suarez et al. Was published in Nutrients, June 14, 2023. Now, this resembles a couple of the studies we mentioned earlier about comparing the African diet with the Western diet, but this is a different study. They're talking about the global impact of the Western diet on everybody. We share the following. Here's the abstract from the article. The Western diet is a modern dietary pattern characterized by high intakes of pre-packaged foods, refined grains, red meat, processed meat, high sugar drinks, candy, sweets, fried foods, conventionally raised animal products, high fat dairy products, and high fructose products. The present review aims to describe the effect of the Western pattern diet on the metabolism, inflammation, and antioxidant status, the impact on gut, microbiota, and mitochondrial fitness, the effect of the diet on cardiovascular health, mental health, and cancer, and the sanitary cost of the Western diet. To achieve this goal, a consensus critical review was conducted using primary sources such as scientific articles and secondary sources including bibliographic indexes, databases, and web pages. Scopus, Embase, Science Direct, Sports Discuss, ResearchGate, and the Web of Science were used to complete the assignment. MESH compliant keywords such as, quote, Western diet, inflammation, metabolic health, metabolic fitness, heart disease, cancer, oxidative stress, mental health, and metabolism were used. The following exclusion criteria were applied. Number 1, studies with inappropriate or irrelevant topics not germane to the review's primary focus. 2, PhD dissertations, proceedings of conferences, and unpublished studies. This information, no, they excluded those. So this information will allow for a better comprehension on this nutritional behavior and its effect on individuals' metabolism and health, as well as the impact on national sanitary systems. Finally, practical applications derived from this information are made. So let's go to the practical applications from this particular study. Improving the Western diet and lifestyle can have a significant impact on health outcomes, reducing the risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. We can propose that some practical applications that can help improve the Western diet and lifestyle. Point 1, increase intake of fruits and vegetables. A diet rich in fruits and vegetables provides a range of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that can promote health and reduce the risk of chronic diseases. Encouraging people to eat a variety of colorful fruits and vegetables, including them in meals and snacks, can help increase their intake. Point 2, reduce intake of processed and fast food. Processed and fast foods tend to be high in calories, unhealthy fats, sugar, and sodium, and low in nutrients. Encouraging people to cook meals at home, emphasizing the importance of reading food labels, and promoting healthier fast food options can help reduce intake. Very, very important points. We're talking about solutions, resolutions. We continue. Encourage physical activity. Regular physical activity is essential for maintaining a healthy weight and reducing the risk of chronic diseases. Encouraging people to find enjoyable ways to be active, such as walking, biking, or dancing, and emphasizing the importance of incorporating physical activity into daily routines can help increase physical activity levels. Next point, limit sedentary behavior. Sedentary behavior, such as sitting for long periods of time, can increase the risk of chronic diseases. Encouraging people to take breaks from sitting, such as standing or walking, and promoting workplace wellness programs can help reduce sedentary behavior. Next point, promote mindful eating. Mindful eating involves paying attention to the present moment and being aware of food choices, hunger, and fullness cues. Encouraging people to eat slowly, savor their food, and listen to their body's cues can help promote mindful eating. Point, emphasize the importance of sleep. Getting enough sleep is important for overall health and well-being. Encouraging people to prioritize sleep and establish healthy sleep habits, such as going to bed and waking up at consistent times, can help improve sleep quality by incorporating and enhancing psychometric evaluation questionnaires specifically designed for assessing one's lifestyle choices. Health professionals will be empowered to provide more personalized and targeted interventions. Very important. So here, just real quickly, wrap this up. Overall, these practical applications can help improve the Western diet and lifestyle, promoting better health outcomes and reducing the risk of chronic diseases. Conclusions. This is from the same study. This review aimed to describe the effects of the Western diet on the metabolism, inflammation, and antioxidant status, as well as on the gut microbiota and mitochondrial fitness, cardiovascular and mental health, and cancer. In addition to the Western diet's hygienic costs, as presented in Figure 5, the most important highlights of this review are firstly that fruits, vegetables, fiber, and complex carbohydrates can combat not only metabolic disorders that an individual may be afflicted with, but also cancer and its development in relation to the consumption of typical Western diet foods. Secondly, in this regard, consuming a healthier diet, rich in micronutrients and antioxidants such as magnesium, potassium, iron, vitamins, B6, B12, A and C, carotenoids and flavonoids, as well as engaging in physical activity, reduce inflammatory processes, which has consequences such as improving mental health, increasing beneficial bacteria in the gut, enhancing mitochondrial function, and boosting our immune system. So that takes us to the end of chapter 2. And today was a good day. We got a lot done. The new book got started. And at this rate, I don't know if I can sustain this rate every day. I'm real busy in the office here these days. But at this rate, this book, Chewicide, could be ready to go to press before the end of this month. I know it probably will not make the April 18 date, which is our 90 days to write and publish your book from January 18 we began. I have had 4 books come out during that time. I'm doing, how many books did I come out during that time? I had a total of 6 books out, 4 of which came within this pattern. So I know I have another one, A Year Against Cancer, getting close to being done. Maybe I could knock out 2 books this week. I don't know. Maybe. How about if 10 of you right now decided to purchase a book from my catalog at keidi.biz. If 10 of you right now, today, I will have time to get the book shipped out, even today. If you order today, I'll put it in the mail today. But what if 10 of you bought a good book such as Living Superfood Longevity or Living Superfood Solutions? I've been sharing from both of those books. If 10 of you did that, then I will go ahead and commit and get 2 more books done by the 18th. That's a big challenge. If 10 of you bought the book, I would say, well, you met your end of the bargain. Let me meet my end of the bargain. If 9 of you do it, that gives me an excuse to say, I guess I don't have to do it because 10 people didn't do that. I have more listeners than that today, so I know you have the potential to do it. You can do what you will to do. I'm going to encourage you to do what's good for you in the long run. We're going to come back with another chapter from the book. Today we were talking about don't get distracted by health statistics. That was chapter 2. And I shared the introduction to the book, Chewicide, Nutritional Suicide. So we're going to come back. The next time we talk about the book will be chapter 3, The Pandemic of Syndrome X. And then chapter 4. Oh, I don't have chapter 4 queued up already. I just started really writing the book last night. And in one day, I'm proud of how efficiently I write. In one day, less than one day, I started last night about 9 o'clock. And I completed 36 pages, 6,176 words, which theoretically, if I really pressed it, is 1/3 of the book, more like 1/4 of a book. I prefer my books to be, about 130 to 180 pages. This one, Living Superfood Longevity, is 207 pages, 208 pages. And this one here, Living Superfood Solutions, this one is about 280 pages. So those are good sized books. So 36 pages in one day, that's not bad. Less than a day, about 1/2 a day. That's not bad. That's how we get it done. That's how I teach. In case you want to get your book out, why not take my course and get your book out in 90 days? 90 days. All you have to do is just follow the instructions. And the instructions are not overly ridiculously difficult. No. We can do better than that. If you want to help me to get 2 books out in the next 8 days, you need to buy 10 books right now. 10 books, people. That's why I'm serious. You can get my books at get my books and support my research at http://keidi.biz/CRP Conscious Roster Press 2012. That's going to get you into my catalog. You'll be a welcome supporter. I really do appreciate your support. Of all the people we had listening today, I'm the only one who hit the like button. Ooh, what's up with that? It is what it is. It's kind of tragic, really is. I do see my beloved sister, Rhonda, checking in on the YouTube. Uja all checking in. And I welcome you, beloved. She checked in just a few minutes ago. I hope you get a chance to go back and read today's or listen to today's broadcast from the beginning. I'm reading from my upcoming book, Chewicide, the book. And again, the subtitle of the book Food so tasty, it's to die for. Food so tasty, it's to die for. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been a good day. I didn't even have to use my AK, as Ice Cube would say. And on that note, we are done for the moment, but we got so much further to go. I'll be back tomorrow. It's Thursday. That's Tech and Future Talk. I may jump right back onto Chewicide the movie, or I may just go ahead and press the issue and do 3 chapters or more from the book A Year Against Cancer, so I can get that one to the printer, just like I promised I would be able to do. I really do think I can get that done, but it's a lot of work. It's writing about cancer is not easy, people. You heard me read the glossary either yesterday or a day before. Just the language itself makes that a very difficult book to write, but I'm good at what I do. Always striving to do even better, especially with your assistance, with your help. You've been tuned into your favorite. We aim to be your favorite. We are LIB Radio, LIB TV. We are livinginblack.com. Tell your friends to tell their friends. We have our own now. And what we have, we're very proud of. And we're very proud to be of service to such a great and noble people as you are. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.